So on our, well, ruler in this case, but this could be your measuring tape too, right? There are measuring tapes with metric and imperial on both sides of it. So the top side here, well, it actually tells you it's measured in centimeters, and that's going to be our metric system, right? We'll talk more about the metric system later on, but so in this case, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it just goes up kind of like you would think. The metric system in centimeters, even though you might not think so, is way easier than the imperial system. um, and the reason for it is because you guys, and you're probably used to measuring like this, is that every one of these ticks, what would that be? Like every tick on that ruler.
1.1.
Yeah, it's like 1.1 in that case, right? So like zero point 0.1. And then it goes up to 10, and then you're to the next one, right? So, and it does that for every one of them. So that's why the metric system makes sense, is because it's base 10, it's called. So just everything is based on 10. You just count up to 10, and then you go to the next number. Count up to 10, go to the next number. So if we were to measure this measurement, can you guys, don't yell it out, just write down, what would that measurement be in the metric measurement? So this measurement right here, if we're measuring this blue box, right? It even kind of shows you in red here. It's 6, and then you've got 1, 2 ticks, right? So what would that be? That would be 6.2, right? If it would have been 3 ticks, it would have been 6.3, 4 ticks, 6.4, right? So again, that's why the metric system is nice and easy, right? Okay, so what about this one? Indicate 1.6 on the ruler provided. So can you guys? Okay, so 1.6 on the ruler. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so I can make my ticks a bit better. So 0.6 just means like after the 1, we're going 6 ticks to the right, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. The one in the middle is 5, right? That's always going to be 0.5. And then the next one, right? That's going to be our 1.6. Okay, imperial. So now, imperial is typically in Canada what we're going to use on the job site. Like, so if you guys would do anything in trades, it's typically measured in imperial. Not all the time, right? Like it depends on what it is. If you're doing things in like an engineering, or a lot of times like really finely like precision things. Like if you're in instrumentation or something like that, sometimes you might be doing more like metric system. But we have to be able to do both in Canada, which is kind of annoying, but we do. But anyway, so if I'm looking at a measuring tape, right? You'll see that, on the tape, maybe there's like 2, and then the next tick is 3, right? And then you've got, kind of jump to the chase here, you've got all these ticks in between, right? Well, the tick right in the middle is a half, right? So, yeah, so if I measured something and I ended up being like 2 into that middle tick, the way we'd write that is 2.5. 2.5, and then you might say like inches, like IN. The other one though, do you know, William, how else is it commonly written? Well, sorry, I mean like the units on that. It'd be like 2.5, and then quite often we just write it like with 2 ticks means inches. 1 tick is foot. We'll do more of that too, but okay. Moving on though, so that's a half. Now there's more lines than that though, right? We want to be more accurate than just to the nearest half of an inch. So we can split it up as quarters, right? So if we had 2, and then if we actually just went to quarters, and you can see that, a quarter is going to be a quarter of the way to 3, right? Like that is a quarter of the way to 3. That would be 2/4 of the way to 3 would get you to the middle. And then 3/4 would get you to here. And then 4/4, or 4/4, that's 1, right? That's 1 more. So now you're going to be at 3. 4/4 is 1, and then so 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, what about this though? So like 1/4, 2/4? Would you think about it that way? Didn't we just say the one right in the middle was a half? Yeah.
And as a half was 2 is half of 4.
Right, 2 is half of 4. Good. 2 is half of 4, so 2/4 is the same thing as a half, right? So 1/4 a half, and 3/4. So that's what we're just showing you here. That like you'd simplify that 2/4 down to a half, right? Okay, and we're just gonna keep adding more lines. So instead of a quarter, we can split these things into eighths, right? That's the next tick. And typically on your ruler, an eighth is gonna be a little bit smaller tick. Do you see how like the 2 and the 3 are like the longest ones? The half is the second longest one. Quarters are going to be the third longest one, and now eighths are even shorter. And it keeps going like that. And now if you had 16ths or 32nds, they're just going to get smaller and smaller. Okay. Okay. So an eighth, you can see that like at 1/8. That's if you counted them. There's 8 of those, right? 1, 2, 3, yeah, all the way to 8 there. And again, so 1/8, and then counting over to this one is 2/8. But what's that the same as? 2/8. That's a quarter, right? That's what it would be on your measuring tape, right? That would be the same as a quarter, right? And that's the same as above, right? That was a quarter. Okay, and then 3/8, and then 4/8. What's 4/8 the same as? Half, right? Yeah, 4/8 is like 4 is a half of 8. Yeah, so that's a half. And then 5/8, 6/8. What would 6/8 be the same as?
3/4.
Yeah, 3/4. And again, you can see that from here, right? That was this line, 3/4. Right, the same thing. If you divided the 6/2 and the 8/2, you'd end up with 3/4. Okay. All right, so that's what that one's showing. And then lastly, it's just going to get even more confusing here. 16ths. And this is typically with a standard measuring tape. You can usually see 16ths of an inch. Sometimes it's eighths, like you can only see to the nearest eighth, but sometimes it's to the 16th. And the same thing. So we'll do some examples. I'll kind of give you like how to get there, but it's the same idea, right? That we can rewrite 2/16. That's the same as 2/16. Won't be a half. Remember, it would be right smack in the middle. 2/16. You can use the picture above if you want. I guess it's on the other page for you guys. So 2/16 would be the same as 1/8. 1/8, right? And again, to simplify fractions, right? 2/16, 2/16. The way we simplify that is we can divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Right, so that just really is the same thing. Okay, and then 3/16, 4/16. What would that be the same as? Quarter, right? I don't know why I'm going up. You can actually just cheat by looking over here. They write them all the way they are, right? And then 8/16. Half, right? 8 is a half of 16. So it's the same thing. Yeah? Okay. I know it probably seems like I was going on too long with that, but it's really important that we get this kind of picture in our mind.
Looking for how to find.
Okay, so I'm not sure what Haslo told you, but do you guys kind of see how this thing works? So the little red dot is showing measures in 16ths of an inch. So anything on that line there is showing like the 16ths of an inch for the measurement. But what's that? Oh, they're all black on yours. Yeah, so for mine though, I've got, you can see color. Okay, so let's actually just do a few here. So state the length of this rectangle shown in the diagram. All right, so it's between 3 and 4. And yeah, you know what? Here, you guys just try it. All right. So the way I'd read this, right? If I'm looking across, I'd say, okay, it's 3 and something. It's between 3 and 4. So it's gonna be 3 and. Now I gotta kind of get my bearings here, right? This is kind of the problem. So I'm looking at the ticks that I'm on. So I'm looking at the ticks here. I have to kind of identify which one I'm even on. So am I on, well, I'm not on halves, right? Because a half, the only time that shows up is right in the middle, right? I'm not on the quarters because quarters show up there, the next one down. So that would be like 1/4 there. That would be 3/4 there. So I'm on the one between like a half and a quarter. Like what's the next one down after quarter? Yeah, the next is smaller. So it goes halves, quarters. So it'll be over, so eighths, right? So these are going to be the 8th spot. That was these ones, right? So like halves, quarters. Now we're like into like the 8th spot. Okay, so you're going to get pretty quick at these ones, so because you'll kind of know this that there's only a few that it could be, right? So in the 8th spot, so what we can do, like you could count right from the beginning. I'd be like, okay, that's 1/8 right there, right? So 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, and now I'm at 5/8. Yeah, so you can do that. You could count every time, but just as a little mental math trick, you don't want to have to count. You don't have to start from the beginning and count every time. It should be a little bit quicker than that. So take a shortcut. So what I would do, if I know I'm on the 8th spot, then right in the middle at a half there, right? If I know I'm thinking 8s, that right there is 4/8. Right? That's a half. That's 4/8 spot. So I need one more. So I got to count up one more from there. I just took a shortcut to get to 4/8. One more than 4/8 is.
One more than 4/8 is 5/8.
5/8. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So then our answer here is just 3 and 5/8.
So that's what I messed up on. I divided 10 to make 5, but I didn't divide 6.
Oh, you didn't divide them both. Yeah. So okay, gotcha. Yep. Yep. Good. And then yeah, you might see this as 2 ticks above, and that means inches. Yeah. Okay. And then yeah, if you want to, there's a solution here that kind of explains it a little bit different way, but it's kind of like an individual thing. I think everyone will kind of do it their own way sometimes too, like in their mind. So, okay, can you guys try these ones? So give this one a try. All right, so we know we're between 2 and 3. Okay, so I know it's 2 and something. So it's going to be 2 and. Which one are we on? Like, so I'm on that tick. Am I on? Yep. Well, it won't be 8s, right? Because like the 8s are going to be this one, because that'd be like 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. Like those are the 8th ticks, or those ones. We're on the quarters, right? You can see that I'm a quarter of the way to getting to 3, right? I'm 1/4 of the way, so I'm on the 4ths, and I'm at 1/4, right? That's just that first spot. So this is gonna be 2 and a quarter, or 2 and a 4th, right? Same thing, and then inches. Okay, tougher one. Okay, so looking at looking at this one, let's try to get our bearings without having to count every one of them too. Like, which spot is this? Like, what thing am I on? Right? So what you can do is I'm like, okay, I'm getting more comfortable. I can tell that this is the quarters one, right? So that's like 1/4, 2 quarters or a half, 3 quarters. Okay, so if I split that thing in half, right? If I go to the middle of that one, this spot right here would be, the next one down from a quarter is an 8th, right? That's the 8th spot. But I'm not even on the 8th spot. I'm on the next one, right? I'm on this one. So after 8s, what's the one that's smaller? If I cut an 8th in half, what am I on now? I'm on the 16ths, right? I'm on the even smaller one, right? So I'm on 16ths here now. And I'm almost to the end, right? So we could count, right? If I really wanted to, it would take a long time, but I could go, okay, 1/16, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that is 15 16ths, but you're not going to want to do that every time, right? What kind of just mental trick could you have done to get to 15 16ths without counting from the beginning? Yep. Backwards. That's what I would have done, right? Because I know 16 16ths, right? 16 16ths is all the way there, right? That's the whole thing. So one less than that, right? One less tick than that. I'm at 15 16ths. Okay. So and then I didn't say what the actual main number was. So we're at 3, right? So this is 3 and 15 16ths. Okay, your turn. Indicate 2 and 3/8 on the ruler. Okay, so 2 and 3/8. So I know it's between 2 and 3, right? So it's gonna be somewhere in there. I gotta find the 8th spot, right? Because I know it's on the 8th one. So again, to get my bearings, right? I kind of remember, okay, halves right in the middle, quarters are the easy ones to see too, right? They're a bit easier. So the 8ths are the ones if I cut those in half, right? So these are going to be my 8th spot, like 8th, 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 and 8th. Right? Those green lines are going to be like where I would have something over 8, right? Like this counts too as an 8th, but they would simplify to like, 1/4 or a half. So 3/8. Okay, so if this is 1/8, and then 2/8, and then this would be my 3/8, right? It's just 3 ticks to get to that point. Okay, so just right there. So that's going to be 2 and 3/8. Now again, you could count them. That wouldn't be too bad, just counting those 3 ticks to get there, right? You could do that pretty easily. But really the way I think I would do it mentally again is you start getting good at it where you realize that the 8s go, okay, it's 3/8 on this side of a half, and it's 5/8 on this side of a half, right? Like, so just under 4/8, and this one is just over 4/8, right? So you'll get that 3 and that 5 kind of in your mind when you're measuring 3/8 and 5/8. Like, just like the left side of it is 3/8, the right side of it is 5/8 for your of a half. Okay, so right there. Okay, all right, so that's it.